I am very excited to talk about this game. Hello there everybody, this is THP with my review of The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4. TLDR, Cold Steel 4 is literally the Avengers Endgame of RPGs. I'm not even kidding, the intro text fades away just like Endgame does. Oh, and it is also my game of the year for 2020. I know, the year's not over yet, but I have already decided that this is my game of the year. I was literally just waiting on this game to decide on whether Final Fantasy VII Remake or this is my game of the year, and I'm pretty sure this is it. This is a fantastic game made purely for the hardcore fans. Every single character that you care about from The Legend of Heroes is either here or mentioned, and they all have important roles to play. Even smaller NPCs have interesting stories to tell, which makes exploring Erebonia a never-ending joyride. There are actual literal joyrides in this game as well, because you can go to Michelin, essentially this game's version of Disneyland. Every single loose end you could think of in the story also gets tied up surprisingly neatly by taking its time in this very long adventure. Every single pixel of this game is worth experiencing. Maybe except for Ouroboros, they still kinda suck, but hey, the game's great. And now the full review. The Legend of Heroes series has been a part of my life in a similar way to how people grow up alongside the actors of, say, the Harry Potter movies or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ever since Trails in the Sky and Cold Steel 1, I've pretty much been playing these games non-stop until now. I mention this because I am now left with a strange emptiness inside from seeing this insane saga come to a close with Trails of Cold Steel 4. It's a game that achieved a similar feat to Avengers Endgame in that Falcom has managed to consistently release high-quality games, all of which connect to one another in significant ways. These connections have now all come together in this grand finale, this big bombastic thing where an enormous world-ending threat requires the power of all of the characters from every single game to team up against it. I am not going to spoil anything, but if you are already a fan of The Legend of Heroes and you simply want to check if this game is worth the kick in the nuts that was the last game's cliffhanger, then I can tell you now that it absolutely is. It is more than worthy of being called an emotional and relatively satisfying ending to the truly epic adventures of Class 7 and Thor's Military Academy. Oh, and by the way, also for the sake of not spoiling anything, all of the footage that you are seeing on screen right now is stuff only from like the first 4 to 5 hours of the game. I am not going to show anything beyond that point because that would massively spoil the story for a lot of you. Like even seeing certain characters on screen, that's a spoiler. So I'm just going to show you just the first introductory things in the game and just listen to what I have to say for the most part. First up, let's talk gameplay. This game is packed to the teeth with content. My full playthrough for this review clocked in at about 92 hours, which doesn't include all of the side quests and exploration I skipped over to be able to finish the whole thing fast enough. I really regret doing that because that's usually the best part about all of the Legend of Heroes games. You have always been sent to travel around different parts of Erebonia, helping solve people's problems, and uncover more of the main story toward the end, and then rinse and repeat until the credits roll. That tried and true routine is no different in Cold Steel 4, but I have no qualms with it since there is a staggering amount of interesting characters to talk to and fun things to do everywhere you go. And of course, the same orbment-based combat system is here too, where you can put in your little master chords and all your little magical attacks and stuff. All of it is still here. This also extends to the graphics and the music, since the game stands more as a immediate continuation of Cold Steel 3 than any sequel that would aim to revamp the whole experience. That's essentially what Cold Steel 3 was anyway. There are a couple of new moves here and there, a couple of nice little surprises, but nothing that you won't already be used to. In other words, nothing has really changed other than the sheer enormity of characters to play with. As mentioned before, every Legend of Heroes character under the sun will be available to play with at some point. Some characters will only be playable during special story events, but more than a few will stick around for the entire game. The cast can get so large, in fact, that you sometimes explore dungeons with multiple teams that you can switch to on the fly. Similar to some parts in Cold Steel 3 where you had a Team A and a Team B, well here you have Team A, Team B, Team C, like it gets that big. Since the orbment system is so good at letting you customize your characters into having whatever build you want, you are more than welcome to pick up whoever your favorite character is, honestly, and you can just customize them to whatever you want. Just do it to your heart's content. So you can even unlock new clothing, items, and hair colors for them as you develop your relationship with them. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some DLC out there where you can buy even more crazy accessories for everyone. This is only the tip of the iceberg though, as the fun doesn't truly start, at least for me, until you start to strike conversation with everyone and get to know them better than you know yourself. It is actual insanity that Cold Steel 4 has managed to achieve the impossible and do what I thought was a long forgotten dream. It made me care about the story. And on that note, let's talk about the story. I have always gone on record on all of my playthroughs to say that I have never truly cared or had any love for the main storyline of Cold Steel or The Legend of Heroes in general. Most of the time it seemed a little bit too dense to understand without playing all of the other games, or it simply wasn't interesting enough for me to care about yet another big giant robot from a long time ago that you have to beat up. Filled with many cliches, unnecessary info dumps at the last second, and poorly executed plot twists and predictable outcomes, it always paled in comparison to all of the side content that usually fleshes out the characters in a way that puts the main story to shame. However, with Cold Steel 4, and after putting the work of playing every single game in the franchise, that is no longer the case. The story, aside from a few blemishes here and there, is nothing short of fantastic. It never runs out of twists and turns to throw at you, for better or for worse, but they still keep every character as consistent, likable, and memorable as ever. They don't give you that large cast for no reason. It's actually crazy how every single party member that you have is like a big, special character. You know exactly who they are. It's not just random NPCs. After the massive cliffhanger from Cold Steel 3, the game kicks off in easily one of the most depressing ways imaginable, with seemingly all hope lost. However, as you play and as you accrue more party members, things start to look up and the world slowly opens up to you, to the point where eventually every location ever will be available for you to explore. This exploration is important since it includes a lot of hidden quests that the game doesn't force you to complete or even allude to at all. You have your main request that you can do for the sake of the story, but there's a bunch of other stuff that's just hiding, waiting for you to find it. And all of these hidden things can be pretty important. Some hidden things can be small little dialogue scenes, you know, some little bits of fan service or some tiny little special thing. Or it could also be a full-on quest where you run through dungeons and beat bosses to see somewhat of a mini story arc unfold. One great example is if you're a fan of Trails from Zero, where you have the Triple S and all these police officers solving cases and stuff, there is a part of the game where you essentially do a little mini chapter with the Triple S, and that's just awesome. It's like you're playing Trails from Zero, but like on PS4 with, you know, these big revamped graphics and stuff. It's actually great. So my thoughts are that you would be doing yourself a disservice to skip any of it, like I did for most of the game. I acknowledge that most reviewers out there describe certain games with a big world as a living, breathing world, to the point that those words no longer hold the same weight and meaning that they once did. However, I can't find any other way to describe the world of Zemuria in Cold Steel 4. It truly is, in every sense of the word, a genuinely well-realized continent with an astounding amount of detail, consistency, and love for the characters within it. And it has like these different countries, and they're all fighting for different things, all this political intrigue. There's just so much going on. This extends from the biggest characters with large set pieces behind them, or tiny NPCs that you could easily just never talk to. But if you do talk to them, you can see their personal story unfold as time moves forward. So not only do you know the main cast very well, but you know the citizens of the cities that you're trying to protect very, very well too. And now with that said, let's talk about some criticisms. Before I even begin to talk about my criticisms, I want to make it absolutely 100% clear that I love this game. I said right at the top of this review that it is my game of the year 2020. I have already decided. And I probably like this game more than any other Cold Steel game, honestly. However, there have always been aspects to this series that have always rubbed me the wrong way. You can look at all of my live streams where I play Cold Steel 1, 2, and 3 for that. These are issues that have prevailed since the very beginning of the series that are still a problem in this grand finale. Despite all of the love I've given this game, I don't think I would have appreciated it anywhere near as much had I not gone through essentially a lot of homework, right? Gone through the trouble of either playing or reading the wiki about all of the games prior to this one. It wouldn't bother me if they were all short 10-hour experiences, right? But they're not. All of them are lengthy 40-hour to even 80-hour or 100-hour RPGs that are also, all of them, are bursting at the seams with information that you'll need to remember or at least vaguely recall for Cold Steel 4. Some vital information doesn't even show itself until you beat some of these games a second time. So for anybody that's new to this series or they want to get into it, it is an incredibly demanding, almost unfair thing to ask of them. Especially when some of the most important games in the story have never been fully translated into English. You gotta go through some Japanese website to buy a digital copy of the game that's in Japanese, and then you gotta track down a fan translation and patch it. For some people, that might be too much, and they're not even gonna bother. Not even the recap that Cold Steel 4 provides is enough to get you up to speed with everything. It only gets you up to speed with Cold Steel, but not Trails in the Sky, not Trails from Zero, none of that. It's difficult to recommend this game to anybody that isn't a full-on fanatic of the series. Otherwise, you will be lost and confused for the whole thing. If you know everything, then this game is magnificent. If you are new and have a lot of time in your hands, then I recommend that you don't buy this quite yet. Buy Trails in the Sky on Steam instead and work your way up from there. Seriously, it's $20 and it runs super duper well on practically any computer, so just go ahead, just start with Trails in the Sky, then Sky 2, then Sky 3, then maybe Trails from Zero if you want to do the fan translation, and then start with Cold Steel 1 and just keep going until you reach the end. Another thing that has always bothered me about Cold Steel is definitely the villains, particularly Ouroboros. To be honest, most of my problems are just with Ouroboros. There are other enemies and antagonists like the Jaegers, the Stahlritter, the Ironbloods, the Nobles. They all prove themselves to be far more interesting as you play, especially when the fights get a lot more personal for the heroes. Ouroboros, however, are very one note, and since the very beginning of the series, they have never truly changed. They are pretty much just as annoying as they have always been, at least, again, in my personal opinion. It has gotten so bad that even the characters within the game itself, they poke fun at how they always seem to appear for the sole purpose of just smirking at them, being overly vague about what their intentions are, and then teleporting away with nothing accomplished. Not to mention how it never fails to irritate when you defeat them in a boss battle, but then they get up and they move on with their big evil plan like the fight never happened. It was annoying in Cold Steel 1, it was annoying in Cold Steel 2, it was annoying in Cold Steel 3, and here it is still annoying when I'm trying to reach the finish line of this saga. It really makes me wonder why the writers are so committed to this awful routine when they themselves acknowledge how bad it is in the game. I can only hope that this acknowledgement of a problem is a sign of change, but honestly, I doubt it. One final thing I wanted to point out was the difficulty. I went with very easy difficulty for the sake of just beating the game faster, but it doesn't really feel easy at all. Either that or I'm just terrible at the game. It's only until a few boss fights toward the end, and the final boss in particular, where it feels like the game is truly very easy, but throughout the whole game, you will come across a ton of tough foes that will require you to actually pay attention. You can't just spam attack constantly and expect to win. I can't even imagine how tough any other difficulty level might be if very easy can leave you with dead characters if you don't take it seriously. Especially if you don't pay attention to status elements, because throughout the entirety of the game, the higher elements and status elements are the two things that will kill you the most. It is not a big issue by any means, but I just thought that I should mention that for anybody that cares about that. And that about does it for my criticisms. Honestly, written down on paper, it looks like a lot, but it's actually a bunch of really minor issues. Everything else I loved. So, in conclusion, even with its glaring flaws, I still really love The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 more than any other game in the Cold Steel series. I could literally talk for hours. I could go full-on video essay on you guys on why I love this game and why I love the series in general, but we'd be here all day, and I don't want to just retell the whole story to you guys. I really want you all to go and just buy this game and enjoy it. I want you to feel what I felt when I was playing through this ending. It made me happy, it made me angry, sad, nostalgic, awkward, depressed, hopeful for the future. It made me full of laughter, and It contained so many like great thought-provoking quotes. I ended up taking so many screenshots of this game. It's also such a beautiful looking game as well. It's such a sight to behold and to hear and to just live it. Everyone and everything from the series comes together beautifully, chock full of content that you will definitely miss on your first run. Personally, I am more than down to play through this whole game again, mostly to explore, look at the side quests, and discover as many hidden things as possible. That and to just talk to everybody, because I legitimately just love every character here. Even characters that I hated before, I kind of grew to love now. The best way to play this title is the same for all of the other ones. Same as in Trails in the Sky, same as in Trails from Zero, same as in Cold Steel 1, 2, and 3. Just live it. It's a role-playing game, okay? So roleplay. Don't try to speedrun it or find this like optimal try-hard way to win. Just take it all in at your own pace and really smell the virtual roses of Erebonia as it takes you away for a ride. And my god, what a ride it was.